The other thing to notice is the percentages. Isn't that a nice percent?
That's incredible.
110% growth, right? Between 90 and 2001.
What happened to the agnostics then? Did they become non-religious?
No, I think what's happening is they're moving up here.
Okay.
Partly because of the Bush administration, they're having to take a stand.
That's with Islam.
But if you think about the relative numbers, though, right? Look at the relative numbers. It's a huge difference. And so to grow that much from 500,000 to a million is not as profound as going from 13 to 27 million. If you think about it, we added 14 million people to this list. It's a hell of a step in 10 years. And that's not today. That's still 2001.
You mentioned it earlier that 150 million Christians, that's a bogus unity. They are so fractured. There are thousands of sects and denominations. There's no test to be a Christian. It's just on the survey. Do you self-identify as a Christian? Right. Sure.
Well, there's a lot of them, even if you ignore the sects, there's a lot of them that don't go to church, don't do any practices, don't really understand Christianity, but their parents call themselves Christian, so they can't imagine not being Christian.
It's the meaning of it is so broad as to be meaningless.
Fair. All right, so this is another one that I'll go by pretty quick just because it says pretty much the same thing if you add them up. But again, they separated agnostic or atheist from non-religious. And again, I think it's because the word is so scary to so many people. What's the difference? Really? Unless you're talking new atheists, that's a different topic. But if you look at it, 17%. Right? So the other thing I looked at, because we're looking at socially whether or not we're a Christian nation at this point, who do we look to socially as our heroes? And a lot of people look to actors and actresses. Certainly not very many people look to politicians. And we don't look to the military much anymore. We look to actors. So these are the top performing actors of all time, really, that we have records of, that were the top performing at least twice in a year. So they look at, I think it's based on how much money their shows made that year. And Tom Hanks has been there 6 times. It's incredible as far as acting. But look at what he calls himself. I thought it was a joke when I read this the first time.
Can't make
Catholic,
it a
Latter-day Saint, Nazarene, and now he's a Greek Orthodox. I really thought he was joking, and I went and started looking up this, and he's serious. He just changes at whims. He was married to a Greek Orthodox at the end, so that's why he ended on Greek Orthodox. And that's a common feature in here. Look at down here at Robert Redford. Was married to a Latter-day Saint. So what? That wasn't the question. But I couldn't find anywhere that said what he was. All I could find is what it said, who he said he was married to. And again, down with Rudolph Valentino, Catholic, married to a Latter-day Saint. Okay, that wasn't the question. Are you really Catholic? And there's a few that say anon, and I actually did a little bit of research trying to find out what they were, and I don't see anything out there on what they were. It's just private about it. But what was, and I looked through probably 50 actors, not just this list. This was just an interesting one. And very few of them are not religious, but I think it's a similar vein to the politicians we have nowadays, which is if you say that you're atheist as an actor, people aren't going to like you very much. In fact, they might boycott your movies, right? Right? So I think that they have to say that there's something or be very private about it and not just say, I don't think they will not say they're an atheist. A few of them did, not very many.
LGBT is a religion?
Yeah, so that was the other thing I noted. Did you notice that? Does everybody know what GLBT is?
No. Yeah.
So, gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transsexual organization. As a religion. And a Scientologist, well, he's got it all right there. The other thing is that I looked at was the correlation with intelligence. And you would hope that over decades, centuries, people start adopting what the intelligentsia believe. I mean, they certainly should be better at arguing it, better at debating it. They certainly should be able to present their points better, although if you get too smart, you kind of can't. But, and I think this is fairly common knowledge in groups like this. I love Sam Harris's quote about this. I don't know if you've read End of Faith. It's one of the books back there that you can look at. But he basically says in there that 90% of intelligent people are not religious. I don't know if he got it from this, but it's the same number. And he said, all politicians are religious. So either they're incredibly stupid or they're lying.
boy.
Of course. So, I think it's probably a similar thing with the actors. But this is a fairly common thing. General population, 90, maybe less nowadays. This is a little bit old at this point. But pretty consistent numbers, right? This came home to me the last 4 years. I have 4 children, and the top 2 are in 2 different high schools, and they're both fairly avid atheists. And the boy went to, and they're both in public schools, but one's in an IB program. Do you know what the IB program is? So International Baccalaureate, when they finish high school, they actually are done with 1 to 2 years of college. And it's that advanced. It's kind of you go from regular school to honors to advanced placement to IB in this country. And one of them's at a public school, not an IB, and the other one's at a public school that has not, and she's in the IB program. And the boy in the public school without the IB program had a lot of trouble with saying he was an atheist. I mean, he had teachers that were prejudiced against him. He had kids that were his friends and would find out and would no longer be friends. Got in a couple fights about religion.
Wow.
The girl goes to school and comes home and says, "What are you talking about? Nobody is Christian anymore. Nobody cares." They either don't care or they think you're stupid if you say you're Christian. And talk about the difference in their view of the world. I mean, she says they sit in a group, and if somebody says they're Christian, everybody will turn and go, "What?" Completely different experiences. But she's going to school with people that are obviously very intelligent and probably come from very intelligent families. It's interesting to look at it this way. Maybe it's a hope for future generations. I doubt it. So another one, and you have to look at this, it's kind of backwards. So this is the percent of people that said they would not consider voting for an atheist for president. And unfortunately, we don't have recent statistics on this. I think they're about due for another one. But look at the change. So these, and obviously, I mean, if you go up to 2 years ago, he's not an atheist, but he's close, as close as we've seen. So the other statistic here, and this is a little bit later, in 2005, the Anti-Defamation League did a survey. 64% of American people believe that religion is under attack. Okay, that's all right. The more important one, though, is that 53% of Americans believe that religion as a whole is losing influence in American life. Hooray! Yeah.
Right.
What intrigues me is that they prefer any religion over none. And to my mind, if you are a Christian, you should consider all other believers atheists, because they believe incorrectly. And yet,
Well, heathen, not atheist.
yeah, Eisenhower said it in '54. He said, "Our system makes no sense without religion, and I don't care which one."
Yeah, I think, and there's a little bit about the science here later on why people believe. But I think you're right. I think there's a tendency to believe that any religion is better than no religion.
Which is just idiotic.
It is.
I mean, Muslim compared to Christian. Christian, in that light, actually looks pretty good compared to stoning women.
Oh, don't get it wrong. Christians did all that too.
That was a Christian idea, yeah, but they're doing it now. See, the Christians kind of grew up and said, yeah, we're not going to stone people anymore. But the Muslims kind of hang on to that.
Yeah, I've never been to a Baptist church.
If it was legal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, certainly Christianity has changed, but it may be that they've changed partly because of America's stance on this too. The freedom and the rights of the individual actually is somewhat more important than religion, which is a good thing.